Good morning. Good morning. In Paterson, we're doing everything we can to bridge the digital divide. As a matter of fact, during the pandemic, we partnered with the school district to make sure that students did not lose too much classroom time and made it a priority to purchase equipment to ensure that students would be able to have access to their classrooms. Well, access is the operative word today. And that's why we're proud to be announcing a pop-up library. So whether you're at the barbershop or the bakery, you'll have access to books. And it also indicates Paterson is E-ready. I know Frank and Luca like that term, right? Yes. And I will commend our director of our Paterson Public Schools, our Paterson Public Library, who's made it a priority to make sure that access is or has become a priority in Paterson. So without any further ado, I present to you our director of our Paterson Library, Fleming.
Good morning. Good morning. Today is always a good day. Anytime I sit and have a conversation, have a meeting with the mayor in front of an audience, right?
Yes.
I try to, it's always something good, right? Because it's always going to be about libraries, because libraries add value, add value to anything. In this city, we're trying our best as a Paterson Free Public Library to not only be there for our residents, but also to build and to understand exactly the needs of our residents. Today, this announcement on the E-POPUP Library not only expands the digital footprint of the Paterson Public Library and its residents, but it eases the access to free information for our residents. We look at one of the things that we've learned through the pandemic, and Luca can attest to this, that there's a digital divide in the state of New Jersey, specifically in our urban cities. And so since the pandemic, we've tried as a library to be able to find creative ways of closing the gap. The mayor talked about a partnership with the Paterson schools. We were part of the partnership with Paterson schools, making sure that, that students had access to information through our lending mobile devices throughout the pandemic. We started that as a pilot program, and now we still have that where we're lending hotspots to our residents. Also, during the pandemic, we understood the outreach, trying to meet our customers where they're at. And this service, this technology service, is meeting our customers where they're at, whether it's in the laundromats, whether it's in the barbershops, hair salons, parks, playgrounds, the Paterson Housing Authority buildings, trying to bridge that gap and to create equal access to our residents. This project started about 2 years ago when I started to talk with some of our folks over at Baker & Taylor in an effort to understand the technology that they bring forward to libraries. Baker & Taylor happens to be one of our long-standing companies and corporations that we've worked with for library resources, especially books and other e-resources. So when I started to talk to Rita, who's not here today, we tried to figure out exactly how this software would benefit, and how this technology would benefit the residents of Paterson. So we started to have those conversations. I talked to some of the colleagues, Boston Public, Jersey City, that have this initiative to see how it meshes with their cities. Took that information back earlier this year. I sat down with a core group of partners, the Paterson Housing Authority, the Paterson School Districts, the Paterson Education Fund, and we talked about it. We had the Baker & Taylor folks come in and give us an in-depth demo of the product and how it would work with our city. So we took that information, we put it together, and now today we're proud to announce this initiative. So I'm looking forward to the first phase of this initiative, because it's going to grow. I know it's going to grow. The partners that we have at the table are strong partners, and we really understand our relationships. We understand how we serve our community. We understand how we serve our city, and we're just trying our best. So thank you very much, and I'm delighted to have this on today to make this announcement.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director. To dovetail on what Director Fleming was touching on, my administration, when we first took office, said we need to improve the physical structures as well. Not just making sure that we bridge the digital divide, which is really important in Paterson, but one of the first grants was for the main branch of our library on Broadway. We actually matched that grant, $750,000, a total of about $1.5 million to make the necessary improvements to the Danforth Library. But we didn't stop there because we have the South Paterson branch and we have the Totowa branch. So improvements are being made at the Totowa branch and improvements will be made at the South Paterson branch. So we still want to invite people who want to take the traditional route and go to the actual library. But we also want to emphasize the fact that there are young people in Paterson and throughout the country, and maybe in the world, that are obsessed with their screens. And they become screenagers. We don't want them, well, we want them to be screenagers, but not when it comes to Roblox or any of these other games. We want these youngsters who are hopefully going to be screenagers for the right reasons, and they're reading books as a result of this initiative. That you can take the QR code, whether you're at City Hall, and if you want to like research the history of Paterson, that'll pop up. Or if, like you said, you're at a hair salon, maybe something will come up about the industry itself. So they're all at your disposal, literally at your fingertips. But I do want to say that we're doubling down on investing in the brick and mortar at all three of our branches. And ultimately, we want our students to be reading above grade level. How about that? Let's raise the bar really high. And that's why we're honored to have with us from Paterson Education Fund, the executive director, Rosie Grant, who's always laboring in the vineyard.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here for this occasion today. When I first was introduced to the program several months back, I was very excited. We were at the library. We had, I think, Tank thinking about possible ways of rolling it out. And what a great idea. If the children and the families can't get to the library, we're going to bring the library to them.
All right.
Yeah.
Wherever they are. So I encourage people as this rolls out to take advantage of it, take advantage of the books, the research, the resources that you can get right on your phone or right on whatever app that you have. I'm an avid reader. I love turning pages, but I can't do that while I drive. So there's one benefit because I love audiobooks. I like to download them, read them as I drive, etc. So I think this is very enriching for our children and our families, especially as we work with the library, with Paterson Reads, and with the Housing Authority to make sure all kids are reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. Because if they don't learn to read by the end of 3rd grade, they have a problem reading to learn for the rest of their education and life. So I welcome this to our families and I encourage our parents and community members to hop on in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to reiterate, Rosie is a voracious reader. Any truth to the rumor you've read every Malcolm Gladwell book? Yes, you have. I knew it. That was just a lucky guess. Right there. I think I'm missing one. Thank you. Blink is really good. Tipping Point, yes, she knows about those. We highly recommend everybody reads the Malcolm Gladwell series. So before we bring on our next speaker, I do want to acknowledge a former school board member and a current member of the Paterson Library Board, and that is Errol Carr. Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us. And before we bring on the speaker, I want to also acknowledge the chairwoman of the Paterson Housing Authority Board, Paula Alford. Thank you for joining us. And so having said that, let's bring on a partner in progress, our executive director of the Paterson Housing Authority, Irma Gorman.
Okay, thank you.
Go get it. Go get it.
No, the mayor always think I'm the go-get-it girl. But this morning I have our chair with me. But one thing I do want to say before I yield at least some of my time to the chair is that with the library system in Paterson, we are so grateful, and I'm speaking on behalf of the residents that are living in public housing. residents that come to visit folks in our building, that the partnership that the Housing Authority has with the library is extraordinary. Corey has been one of those individuals that understand not just the mission of education and knowledge and systems, but he also understands the value of our children, our youth in town. And who better can talk about them, because I'm an old head, is our chairperson, Paula Alford. So
You say you're a veteran.
Thank you for the opportunity. The Paterson Housing Authority is elated about this opportunity, especially for our senior residents. When the mayor spoke about the digital divide, it deeply affects the seniors who sometimes is cut off from the new world of technology. So being able to have our senior population that live in public housing be able to access a QR code and be able to access books, information in a world beyond the units in which they live means so much to our agency. So we are just thankful to be a part of the partnership because it's bigger than just the Paterson Housing Authority. It's about the senior residents that sometimes can't leave their units, they're immobile for whatever reason, and being able to bring a service like this to them is going to be beneficial and life-changing. So we just thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And we appreciate the collaboration with the Paterson Housing Authority, especially with our branch at the Alexander Hamilton Heritage and also at 60 Temple Street.
All right.
Yes,
All right.
yes, of course. Come on, I ate my Wheaties this morning. Before we bring on our final speaker, I do want to acknowledge the Executive Director of PALS Plus Library Consortium, Luca Mana. Thank you, Luca. And so, the of Public Sales, Baker and Taylor's Pop-Up Library, Mr. Frank McDonald. Please, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director Fleming, for the opportunity to be a partner in such a visionary and progressive effort. Corey mentioned a couple of things that just resonated with me. One of them was customers, and there was a time when we thought of the people that visited libraries as, we called them patrons. Now we call them customers because our mindset has changed and we're focused on providing customer service. But he also mentioned another word that resonated, which was residents. And the pop-up library service is not just for existing library customers. It's for residents in the community to discover what the library could possibly bring to them for free. Wherever they gather, wherever there is an internet connection, it could be in a senior center, it could be in a recreation center, it could be at City Hall, but the ability to be able to provide a service like an instant digital book to someone who doesn't know about the library, and then to receive a message a few minutes later saying, if you're liking this experience, click here to develop a relationship and get a card from the public library. So we're just thrilled to be able to be a partner with Corey and the library and the city of Paterson, and just from everything I can say on behalf of Baker and Taylor, thank you so much for that opportunity.
Yes. Thank you. So ultimately our objective is to have well-rounded students in our schools, in our city, and we've invested over $100 million in improving our public spaces. And I was at a few playgrounds this weekend with my children, and I noticed parents were there as well. And I can only imagine, after implementing this initiative, what parents can be doing with their children after the playground, before the playground, or maybe while they're at the playground, trying to access a certain book that sparks their attention. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my wife, who's very adamant about literacy. As a matter of fact, she partnered with Director Fleming early on when we applied for that Big Read grant that we received so that people in Paterson would be on the same page, reading the same book. Unfortunately, the pandemic happened, so that sort of hampered our efforts. But this is proof positive that we're doubling down, that we prioritize literacy in the city of Paterson. And like Rosie said, we want them to read at grade level by the 3rd grade so that they can have the same opportunities that their counterparts in other towns and other school districts have. So this falls in line with what we ultimately want to do: empower our youth, and empower our residents. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.